That said, is that what has caused you to take a substantial position in Bitcoin, upping your stake to 50% now?
That has been an ongoing narrative. I've been involved in Bitcoin since, I don't know, 2012. It's been the ongoing narrative of, at the beginning of this, I knew the only answer would be cut all interest rates to zero and probably negative, and then massive stimulus beyond anything which we've ever seen before. So the first phase, I wanted to be involved in Bitcoin, so I bought into the sell-off, added to my positions, and now I'm starting to see the shift towards insolvencies, and the only answer is more from the central banks. So that's why I've started to buy more and more Bitcoin. Technically, the setup's right. Obviously, we had the halving, and just the adoption phase, what's happening with the institutions, it's like the perfect timing.
Back in June, your allocation, I had seen a previous interview you had done, you were 25% US dollars, 25% gold, 25% equities, 25% Bitcoin. So if you're now 50% Bitcoin, how has the rest of the allocation changed?
It's probably above 50% now. Really, I've reduced cash, put that into Bitcoin. My trading positions are relatively small because I don't think there's as much opportunity as there is in Bitcoin. So really, mainly a bit of cash, some gold and Bitcoin. And I'm even toying with the idea of selling my gold to buy Bitcoin, more Bitcoin.
Wow. Okay, well, I'll get back to in a second. So when you say you have a little cash, is that still a hedge against your other holdings?
Yeah, it's also just for the optionality of, cash is good. To have cash.
So you're not like an anti-cash person, like cash is dead, cash is worth.
Of course, no. Even if they have negative 5% interest rates and they'll lose 5% in a year, it doesn't bother me in the kind of time horizon we're talking. If I'm talking about 10-year time horizon, of course I care. But over the next 6 months, even if there's negative interest rates, it's not the end of the world.
So I find it interesting that you're saying you'd consider selling some of your gold to buy more Bitcoin, because I always saw you, Raoul, as a hybrid adopter and lover of both gold and Bitcoin.
Yes, and I am and remain so, and I don't dislike gold. When you get to the macro opportunity, when it's all happening, if Bitcoin starts breaking out of these patterns that it's been forming, it is going to massively outperform gold. I'm 100% sure of that. So in which case, why would I have the gold allocation?
I guess when I speak, right. So when I ask this question to gold aficionados, they'll say when the money starts leaving the bond market, it will flow into gold, and hence that's why gold will then go to 5, 10,000, 20,000, whatever.
Yeah, I don't believe any of that. I don't think the money leaves the bond market. I think, like Japan, I think the bond market continues to attract pension assets and a whole bunch of others. So I'm not fearful of hyperinflation, default, or anything else. What I'm interested in is people adopting a different monetary unit for their savings and reserve assets.
What about central banks? And I asked Michael Saylor this as well. We've seen them buying gold at record amounts last year, the first quarter of this year. Do you see an adoption of Bitcoin?
For sure. It's all got to come in waves, right? It started with retail. It's started to move into hedge funds. We're not there yet. You can't prime broke Bitcoin assets, but that's coming. We're starting to see family offices in the space. Next is the institutions, the endowments, the pension plans. And within that, you'll find some government, it'll be somebody like Nicaragua or somebody will suddenly say, we've allocated 5% to Bitcoin. Somebody who's always had problems with currency devaluation. That's going to come, and it's going to be another huge story, much like the Michael Saylor story, that will come out of nowhere, and everyone's going to go, that's just changed the world again.
I asked Michael Saylor how he sleeps at night after taking such a huge position in crypto. So I'll ask you as well, over 50% for you now, how do you sleep?
I don't actually think about it. I kind of think that I don't sleep a lot,
right?
But also I'm not worried, because how I structure my portfolios is when I take a big bet like that, I know that I've got 50% downside or so, and that's okay for me because the upside's so much bigger.
You have one of the most bullish calls out there for Bitcoin, not just the $1 million mark, but $1 million within 5 years.
Yeah, I think that's about right. And that, whether it's 5 years, 6 years, we're going to go through 2 of these halving cycles. And just from what I know from all of the institutions, all of the people I speak, there is an enormous wall of money coming into this. It's an enormous wall of money. Just the pipes aren't there to allow people to do it yet. And that's coming, but it's on everybody's radar screen, and there's a lot of smart people working on it. So I think it's going to be not because the world's collapsing, it's because there's going to be adoption by the real large pools of capital.
Interesting. Raoul, you've been in the markets a long time. Is this a market unlike anything we've seen before?
Yeah, I think so. I think with the economy right now, most of the global economy is down, let's say between 5 and 6% year on year, which would make it the worst recession since the 1930s. Now, that's after the semi-recovery. And then parts of the stock market are at all-time highs. Things like banks and stuff, and oil companies and the old economy are all falling in price because they're covered in debts or the economic models change. Yeah, this is a truly extraordinary market. I mean, to sum it up, the spread between gold miners, which are kind of limited debts, cash flow businesses right now, and banks was 86% by about July this year. 86% difference in the favor of gold miners versus banks. I've never seen anything like that in a 6-7 month period.
Raoul, you've had, your track record as a hedge fund manager is tremendous, and then you decided to go into the media business with Real Vision. Is it interesting what you're seeing? At least this is what I'm seeing, is people unplugging from mainstream media, especially when it comes to financial news, and desperately seeking other sources of content.
People don't trust the financial industry and the financial media. It kind of let them down. And so we're seeing this broad spread. Bitcoin is part of this whole movement, this disintermediation, disaggregation of information, where people are taking their own power back to educate themselves, to say, enough's enough, I need to do this myself, I need to understand what's going on. And that's so good.
And that's really the common denominator, whether I'm speaking with Jim Rogers or Robert Kiyosaki, they're all saying that educating oneself right now is so key.
Yes, absolutely. It's the most important thing. And the mission behind Real Vision is to democratize the very best financial intelligence. And how we do that is just bring guests that nobody would ever have access to talk about stuff that they never really are privy to, and then saying, okay, look, here's the information, the same level playing field that the world's most elite hedge fund managers have. So now it's for you guys.
Well, I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing over there at Real Vision. You're putting out some great interviews and some great content. So I respect that, Raoul, and I wish you continued success. Before I let you go, for all our viewers watching, some advice that you'd like to share with them right now, how to navigate these waters right now.
Okay, so if you're looking in terms of markets, then just watch the price of, let's say, the regional banks ETF, KRE in the US. That'll give you a good idea of what's going on with this solvency situation where people are looking towards going bankrupt. Also, just be cautious. Right now, keeping hold of your income is the single most important thing you can do. It's not the time to take necessarily big bets. It's all good and great to hear me talking about my big bet in Bitcoin.
Right.
But diverse income streams, protect your income. It's worth more than capital. Protect that. And then if you can take some bets, that's okay.